Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
I noticed some truly creepy file, rap, general offender themed posts in this thread, so I feel alright contributing with this story. Some exposition. There's an older man who lives a few blocks away from me. He lives on his own, with some assistance from his comparably creepy mother. There was a time when a growing family lived near him, and my best friend spotted him at their house one day, outside with the young daughters of the family. He invited them into his garage, and was kicked off the property by the father figure. That family moved shortly after. He has also been known to, around Halloween, leave a box of pine cones out at the end of his driveway labeled with the word, free. He always rides his bike around the neighborhood, sometimes with a box of beer cans in the bike's basket. Storytime, B17. It's summer, out on a walk with my older sister, then 19, before it gets dark. See man approach our position on his bike, coming from the opposite direction. Both of us start getting nervous, but I calm myself by assuming he'll just go right past us. Also, he's one of those people that rides their bikes very slowly. He passes us, but when I notice that the sounds of his bike haven't completely dissipated, I look over my shoulder and notice that he has turned around and is now behind us. Ah hell no. JPG. He starts talking to us.
Hi, girls.
We ignore him, because what else are we supposed to do? He talks again.
How old are you girls? Juniors.
I answer, no, because I would be a senior in the fall. Sis is too nervous to answer. He asks.
Sophomores?
When I answer, no, again, he rides off ahead of us. At that point, we start heading home. Just as our house comes into view, we hear his bike again. He's behind us. As we're thinking about crossing the street to go to our house, he pulls up right next to us and stops his bike to talk. I don't give him time to form a coherent sentence. Since he was mumbling, I repeatedly tell him to leave us alone and go away already. He's a little stunned, and asks us why he should. I tell him that he's bothering us. He tells us that he wasn't doing anything, and indignantly rides away. Sis and I head into our house once he's out of sight, and to this day I'm still wary of taking walks in the evening. What I found to be especially creepy about the experience is that when he was guessing our ages, he guessed lower after his first guess, not higher. Also, when I was even younger, probably around 15, he would call out to my friends and I when we would pass his house on our walks. Sometimes, he would even whistle at us from his open windows. Overall, he's definitely someone to avoid.
8. Heading to friend's house. Taking the short spoopy way. See old lady carrying bags. She looks at me. I say hello. She starts to say that she knows me, and offers me candy. Decline because friends at school called me ham boy, sumo man, etc. I also have to mention that I was living with grandma at that time. After I decline the candy, she seems angry but doesn't do anything. Go to friend's house. Years pass. Talking to grandma about her friends that died. Brought up the old lady. Doesn't know who I am talking about. Tells me that there was an old lady who gave candy laced with drugs to children, then killed them in her house. Was arrested 2 years ago. I was almost killed by an old lady. Spoopy stuff.
Anon here. I'm an only child and this happened a long ass time ago, but it was creepy as fuck still. Okay, so, I live in an old house, no installation, so it's always cold. I also have a weak immune system, so I get sick quite easy. During this time, my mom was a studying nurse and my dad worked graveyard shift, so they both were gone usually. Being an only child, I was okay with this. So, it was about 8 p.m. I had stayed home from school because I had gotten sick, so I was down for the count all day. But, being alone, I had to make dinner. I got up and headed to make some soup. Our back doors have windows in both of them, so you could blame this on me being sick, but I looked out the back window, and I saw a man standing in our backyard. We have a huge-ass backyard plus with trees surrounding our house. Normally, I'd shrug it off as our neighbors being friends. But they had been gone all damn day, so I was really fucking confused and a bit spooked. But I shrugged it off as being sick and maybe that was a hallucination. So, I made my soup, took quite a bit of time, and headed back to lay down. When I looked out the window, the man had moved closer to our house. He was in some cheap-ass Halloween mask. By this time, I was fucking spooked as shit, and I almost dropped my soup. I picked up the phone and called my mom, and continued to stare at him. Mom rushed home, thinking the guy had broken in. By the time she had got home, he was gone.
I've got a few. All happened in the same place. We'll post more if you guys like. I'll just start by describing the location. A huge industrial estate in southeast England, in a big industrial town. Lots of warehouses, large buildings, and then there is a large, mansion-looking building that now has most of the offices for the companies who use the warehouses. I think the whole place is about 150 years old, and sometime in the 40s or 50s it was divided up into smaller warehouses that lots of different companies rent out. There also happen to be various tunnels going underground that are used to get from different parts of the estate. Apparently, it was safer than trying to cross the estate when all the old machinery was still there rolling around. Finally, my connection to this place. My dad worked as a general maintenance, construction guy for the company that owned the whole estate. He's retired now. As a kid there was a few times I had to go to work with Dad for the day and I'd just take my Game Boy and sit in the mansion for the day. After I turned 18, my older brother was also working construction for the same company, and I did too, to make some easy cash. So I was at that estate a lot, working construction. A few spooky things happened to me when I was a kid, and a few more happened when I was 18, working there with my brother. Here's one. Get to the estate at around 11 p.m. As it's a working industrial estate, lots of the construction and maintenance work has to be done at night so as not to disrupt the people who actually use the warehouses, etc. So we were often there at night. Taking tools, gear out the van into one of the units. Look down the road through the estate. See a face peeking out at me from the side of a unit about 50 feet away. Had a few break-ins on the estate lately, so I tell my brother I'm going to check it out. Grab a torch and hammer from the van and head down. Get to where I saw the face. Nothing. Webm. Check behind all the bins, in all the shadows, all the doorways. Nothing. PDF. Not even any doors smashed or windows broken. Decide my torchlight might have sent the intruder running off, so I head to the security hut at the main entrance to let the guard know. 24-hour security because night work happens at this place, and pretty friendly with the guard, knows me and my bro. He tells me to stick around while he checks the cameras and we can go together if he finds something. Watch 5 minutes of footage of the exact spot where I saw the face. Shows me walking down there. No face on the footage, but I fucking swear I saw someone watching me and my brother. Got a few more stories from this place, not all of them involving me. This story didn't involve me, but I knew the lady it happened to from one of those days I had to spend in the offices as a kid. Should also say at this point that the mansion, and to a lesser extent the estate, are notoriously haunted. Most people in my hometown knew it as one of a few places that were haunted nearby. Massive mansion-looking building, now converted into offices for the estate. Small team of cleaners who clean at the end of the day as the building is so large. The lady I knew was there at the end of the day, vacuuming on the top floors. Turns around to see somebody walking at the opposite end of the corridor. Pick up a broom that was propped up against the wall, and walk into a room. Switches off vacuum, and goes to room. 'Cause she needed the broom in a sec and didn't want this other cleaner to start using it. Walks straight down the corridor to the room. Nobody in the room, but the broom is propped up next to the window overlooking the estate. She quit after that. It goes without saying there were lots of accidents on the estate in the earlier part of the century due to the factories and warehouses.
Went to shitty religious school. Preschool to high school all in one building. Located right next to a hill that led into some woods. Younger kids were allowed to use playground fenced off from hill. High school kids weren't. We got a bench, a basketball hoop, and a basketball. Right next to hill behind playground. No fencing at all. We would constantly lose the ball down this giant hill. Since I actually liked it down there, I always went to get it. Sometimes other bored people would follow. One day we found the shell of a fucking car. A fully grown tree had grown through the windshield. And here's where it gets kind of weird. So we start exploring down there sometimes. We keep going deeper into the woods each time. But we almost always chicken out after a while. So it takes us a few months to actually find anything. For a little while it's just trees, dirt, and snakes. Eventually there's a little river. We never crossed it, we used it as a wall. Eventually we find something. A truck. A big truck. No idea how long it's been there. A big abandoned fire truck out in the middle of the woods. No roads in these woods. A couple of days later we work up the nerve to open it. Can't, doors are locked. Can't see through the windows. Don't want to break in. Other kid disagrees. So he starts trying to break in. The rest of us leave, we don't want to be arrested. Eventually he comes running back, he's fucking terrified. Said he heard some noises from inside the truck. Saw something move in the window. Started booking it back to us right then. This kid wasn't playing a joke or anything, he's a fucking terrible liar. Can't fight off grinning when he lies. None of us ever went back there because we were pussies. The school closed down recently because of funding issues. Now that I can't be mistaken for stalking a school, being 21, I've kinda wanted to go back and see what was up with the area.
A third grader. Backstory. At school there's a typical looking man-child, fat guy, facial features of an artist, who hangs around the school bus greeting children in the morning and plays with them in the afternoon. Heard rumors that this guy goes after some children during playtime. Heard one child tells it to her parents but they didn't believe it. Disregards it since I ride and hang around the school bus area. Fast forward months later. Go to McDonald's playground which is just in front of the school. Also with friends and parents. Parents are downstairs while the playground is in second floor. Play with friends for a while. I'm inside the tube-like slide waiting for my friend to slide together. Felt someone huge climb the ladder. It's the man-child. I noped and slide out of playground. He's right behind me when I got out of the slide. Laughing in a really creepy Chris Chan voice.
Wow, you have a pretty long hair.
Both man hands are on my shoulder. Nope. Runs quickly downstairs and went home. Other kids didn't see what happened but eventually went home because the guy was also making creepy moves on other kids.
This story isn't really creepy, more just strange. When I was younger, I lived next door to this girl. We quickly became best friends. We would do everything together. She was pretty much the sister I never had. As years went on we never grew apart, but she moved to another state with her family. This was before the days of Facebook. We always stayed in touch on the phone, racking up long-distance bills and AIM. This went on for at least 3 years. Slowly we stopped talking so much to the point where we would talk maybe once a month. Couple of years passed and I had barely heard from her at all, but I never really thought about it much. I didn't know if she had moved again or whatever. One day out of nowhere my old man got a promotion, and we had to move out of state, not the same state she had moved to. Everything was going good. I was walking down the street one day when someone walked by me and caught my eye. She stared back at me and we both made eye contact. This was at least 7 years after the last time I had seen her, so I wasn't sure if it was her or not. I couldn't help it. I said her name and she just smiled and knew who I was instantly and gave me a big hug. We talked for hours and I found out she had moved again and lost my number. This place was literally 8 hours away from where she initially moved, and not that close from where I used to live. We hung out every day for months and picked up again like we had never been apart. Over the course of the following few years we were once again best friends, and then college came. I had moved again to go to school. We still talked a lot now on Facebook and the phone. She would come visit me occasionally. It was a 2-hour drive, so it wasn't often. At this point I had a girlfriend for a few years and we had a baby together. So I left school and moved back home. At this point we hadn't spoken again for at least a year except on Facebook. Anyway, jump a few years forward. I was dropping my son off at daycare. He had made friends with some kids there but was always talking about a kid that he had made best friends with. As I was dropping him off, he pointed the kid out and said, "That's her name." The kid's mother was dropping her off. Sure enough, it was her again. We are now currently a couple and engaged. Just strange how things work out sometimes.
Awake late one night. 10 years old. Really superstitious. Read lots of books about spooky ghosts. Watching Adult Swim. Think I'm cool as fuck. Now, before this next part comes along, I want you to know my family had an open yard and there were no blinds on my windows. Hear loud ass knock on the window about 3 feet behind the head of my bed. Close my eyes. Think it's some spook that will steal my soul if I look at it. Louder knocking. More rapid. There's a sound like loud, screechy windshield wipers. Covers are over my head. End up nearly pissing myself. End up falling asleep after what feels like a few hours. Wake up next morning. Police. My parents won't let me go in my backyard. Not paranormal, but creepy nonetheless. I later learned that my neighbor, who was also my best friend, got fucking chopped up with the rest of her family and they found her body in my backyard. She lived next door. So, she came banging on my window for help, and I shat myself under the covers. That shit doesn't leave you.
Years ago, when me and my friends were teenagers, we'd run around the town being giant shitters, smashing car windows, setting up jumps around sharp corners, trying to get into fights with random people. Just stupid small-town drunk teenager shit. Me, 2 friends of mine, my brother and his friend, all between the ages of 16 to 19, are out on this night. Long story short, we fucked up and were running our asses off, and had split up. Me and my brother's friend get to the west edge of the town, which holds a trail called 13 Bridges. It runs through a deep forested area. I got in probably 50 meters ahead of him. He's big and slow, so it took him a while to catch up. Seems safe. I decide to just head back home. None of us have cell phones, so we can't call each other to meet up again. He says he's going to go for a walk through the trails to chill a bit before heading home. Dude lived on the complete opposite side of town, a good hour-long walk, whereas my place was only a 15-minute walk from there. Walking back towards the entrance, see some old dude walking into the forest. It's dark, but I'm pretty sure it's the dude whose window we smashed. Use my cat-like abilities and knowledge of the trails to duck my ass behind a tree. Figure he's looking for us. Watch him head down the right bridge. Me and my brother's friend had gone down the left on the way in. Elect not to run in and warn him, since the odds of them running into each other in the darkness are low as fuck and I'd probably get caught too. Flash forward to later that night. Me and my brother are sitting in his room smoking up. Hear our front door slam closed and we both look to the hall. Brother's friend comes running in. Tells us he got jumped by some insane dude with a knife shouting about how he was going to fucking kill him. Asks if I saw anything. Nah man, I didn't see shit, that's fucked. I didn't think that old fucker would try to kill us. He's sure it wasn't the dude whose window we smashed.
Before the story, just letting you guys know I'm Asian and a lot of my relatives are in the whole shamanism thing. Uncle has a couple dogs. One day he doesn't go to work. Goes outside and sees one of the dogs on the swing. Is sitting on the swing like a kid. Neighbors also report seeing the dogs walk around on two legs when nobody's home. Uncle calls a shaman to see what's going on. After ritual, shaman says the dogs are possessed by a spirit. The spirits has been watching his kids play on the swing for a long time. The spirits wanted to swing too. Spirits has possessed his dogs and do shit when they think nobody's home. Shaman says not to cause a scene and just treat them like dogs until they go away. Shit continues and uncle and his family pretends that they're just regular dogs until one day the dogs are just gone. And another. Wake up early to get ready for school. Me and two brothers are chilling in the living room waiting for the time the bus comes. Older siblings are already left for high school. Time rolls around and we get up to leave. All of a sudden there's just two of us. Third brother was just here but is now gone. We miss the bus because we're looking for him. Search every nook and cranny of the house for like 2 hours. Mom comes home from work and helps us look. She finds him in our bedroom closet knocked out. We had already looked in that closet multiple times. Each time the door was locked. Door locks from outside the closet and won't close if you locked it beforehand. Bedroom closet is opposite of where he was hanging out with us in the living room hours before. Me and younger brother go to school late and tell nobody about this. That was probably the biggest thing to happen to me personally. Though other stuff has happened that has been the most WTF moment of my life. And another story about that closet. Chilling with some younger bro alone. We're just eating candy in the room. He's sitting in the closet with the candy. I go to the closet as well because why not, we're kids. Door closes behind me and locks. Remember I said earlier the door locks from the outside and won't close if locked already. We cry and cry for hours. And I mean hours because I remember the time before I went in. Two kids stuck in the dark crying and banging on the walls, door for someone to help. Eventually mom comes home and finds us there. And another WTF story with those same brothers. Different house. Laying on bed. Brother is on the computer in front of me at the foot of the bed. See a shadow pass between us. I don't say anything. After a few minutes he climbs into bed to sleep. That night he keeps hitting me in his sleep and mumbling something. In the morning we find a bunch of our fish has been taken out of their tanks and are on the ground. Later that day we're at a cousin's house. We start telling scary stories. He says last night some little goblin or something kept grabbing his arm. Says he kept trying to wake me up to help him. MFW I was awake the whole time. This is when I tell him I saw a shadow pass behind him when he was on the computer. He asks me why the fuck I didn't tell him about the shadow.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.